Good morning everyone, and welcome to this Zoom session on pricing and looking at the journey where we as sales agents are on when we engage with a homeowner and we have an opportunity to work with them on assessing fair market value on their property and having the conversation with our homeowners on pricing. And we are so fortunate to have Jason Hutton with us. Jason is with Harcourts Platinum in Somerset West, and Jason has been in the industry for 13 years and he's been with Harcourts for 11 years. And Jason is a second-hand residential specialist in Somerset West and also a development specialist there in the Helderberg Basin. So Jason has covered all the spectrums of the residential real estate market in the greatest part of his 11 years in the real estate industry. And many of you, most of you will know Jason. Jason actually needs no introduction. He's a Blue Circle team member, one of the top 5 agents in South Africa, and has been a top producer in the top 5 consistently for many years in his industry, in his real estate career with Harcourts. Is that pretty much how I have it, Jason?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Oh, fantastic, great. So as you can see, Jason is in lockdown in Langebaan. He's one of those fortunate few that finds himself in Langebaan. All right, great. Okay, so Jace, the first thing that I want to ask you is, when you get an inquiry from a homeowner to come and view their property and with the possibility of taking the property to market, how prepared do you go to that first meeting? What preparation do you do before you meet with a homeowner so that you can go prepared? What is that type of prep that you do?
Kubus, I always take the 3-pronged approach. So it's the initial call, then the initial meeting where you do the evaluation, then obviously where you present to them after that. So in the initial call, I try to keep the call as brief and as professional as possible, but obviously try and form a rapport with the client over the phone. The sort of questions that I like to ask on that first phone call is just a couple of things to help me understand the position of the client. So I would like to ask them, first of all, how did they get to know about me? Was it through a friend or relative? Was it because I sold a house down the road? That's important just so I know where the inquiry came from, because that will help when I have my first appointment with them. Obviously a lot easier if you've been referred by a friend or a family member. The other things that I also like to know is just get an idea of their urgency. So how quickly are they wanting the appraisal done? When do they expect to have that presented to them? So just to give an idea of what the urgency is with the client. And then obviously I try to find out whether they have been chatting to other agencies or other agents, or if it's only me that they're talking to. So that just gives me a little bit of insight into how I prepare myself and the angle I go in on that first meeting. Then obviously with the actual meeting itself, you need to go relatively prepared. There's no point just pitching up on the doorstep. So obviously what you do is you pull a CMA for that property. The type of things I like to see is, when did they buy the property? How much did they buy it for? Like to understand what is happening from a sales perspective in their market in that suburb. So I like to understand how many sales have occurred, what sort of price range, and then you get an idea of where the lower end is to where the higher end of the price range is. You can obviously look at their house as well, their municipal valuation as an example, which gives you an indication of where their house could sit in that range. Obviously you haven't seen the property yet, but it gives you an idea. Is it one of the smaller homes that has to be renovated, or is it one that is larger that has been renovated? That would be on the top side of the scale. So I obviously just pull that information so that I have it in case the conversation happens on that first meeting. And the other thing that I always take with me as well would be my personal presentation pack, which has the information about the company, the information about me and my successes, and then obviously your referrals from past clients, which is important. And then that's something you would leave with them so that they can read through it after you've left them in that meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. So when you view the property for the first time and the homeowner happens to be there or they're not there, and you speak to them maybe at the property at the time of the first viewing, or you speak to them afterwards, do you give the homeowner an indication of possible value upon that first inspection or first viewing of the property if they ask for it? Do you find that a lot of homeowners ask you right there on the spot what you think the property is worth? And if they do, how do you handle that?
Yeah, most homeowners are only interested in one thing, and what is the price of their home, or what do you think the price of the home is? Because a lot of homeowners base the decision on which agent they go with based on how much the agent says they think they can get for them. But obviously we try to move away from that scenario, because the price is just one of the components of why they should be buying or using an agent. So I've always found, Kubis, that I try and stay away from anything to do with pricing. I have the information so that if that question does come up, then you can say, look, in your area, most houses sell between 2 and 3 million, and it could be on the low end, it could be on the higher end, but we don't thumb suck. We need to go and do our homework professionally so that we can see exactly where your home sits in that range. So you can try and move away from the question with an answer like that. But my initial meeting, Kubis, there's two reasons I have that meeting. The first is to gather information. So the sort of information you want to gather is when did they buy the house? How long have they been there for? What are the things that they love about the home and why they bought it? Why are they wanting to move? What is their timing like? These are all questions that give you an idea of the motivation of the client, and the motivation is the important thing. The second thing that I focus on is building a rapport, forming a relationship with the client. I've found that they're not interested in your marketing, your service levels, the 300 homes you've sold in the past. It's irrelevant to them. Obviously, that gives them confidence in your abilities, but not in that meeting. That first meeting is to gather information so you understand the motivation of the client and form a rapport with the client. I've found that if you can form a rapport with the client and they like you and they trust you, then 80% of your job is done for when you go back to present to them.
Okay. So what you are saying is that you really try and push for that second meeting after the initial viewing of the property, initial meeting with the client, ideally to go back and have that, to go and do your research and to come back with the information, and then to have a proper sit down and do your listed presentation. That's what you really aim for.
That's exactly it, because typically what you will know as an agent is if you work in a specific suburb and you've gone on to CMA and you've seen what the house looks like from the outside, you've gone in with Google Maps, you can see the size of it. You obviously haven't been in, so you don't know what the bathrooms look like or the kitchen or whether it's been renovated and that type of thing. But the idea is that you're going in to gather information, to form a rapport so that they like and trust you. I always push for the second meeting, and then typically what I will do is once you've gone through and you've had a conversation, you've walked through the home, you made your notes, that type of thing, I always end off with a positioning statement. So I will sit with the client and I say, okay, well, thank you very much for the opportunity of allowing me to come through. I'm really excited to have an opportunity to work with you. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go away and we're going to do our homework. And this is where now I address the price issue, because I want to set it up for the next appointment. So I will say to them, okay, so we obviously need to get an idea of what your home is worth. That's normally the most important thing to the seller. But obviously what I think the price of your home is worth is not really relevant, because I'm not buying it. And what you think it's worth is not really relevant because you're not buying it from yourself. The only person that the price is important to, and the only way that the value is determined is by the market, which is obviously made up of the buyers. And what you will find is that there isn't a specific set price, and this is what your home is worth. Your home will be worth whatever that buyer is willing to pay based on his motivation. So you will, for instance, your house is close to the school, so you will probably attract a family that will put more value on your property because it's closer to the school, as opposed to a retired couple who don't need a large garden.
Okay.
So what we will do is we'll go away and we'll look at the range of where your house sits, and that will be best case scenario of what we would love to achieve for you, because our goal is aligned with yours, which is to get the highest price from the market, to what the worst case scenario is. So obviously what we will do is we'll give you that range, and then when I speak to you in our next meeting, you'll see the sort of sales, the marketing that we employ, and also our techniques in order to achieve the highest price from the market, our strategies. But we will always aim for that highest price, but we always recommend that you work your numbers on the lower worst case scenario so that you can work out where you're going on the back end.
Okay.
And that's normally they're very happy with that.
Okay, excellent. Now, let's say you have a situation where the homeowner says to you, but we've already had 3 other agencies through that have actually presented to us, and now they've heard of you. Let's say there was no relationship before and they've heard of you, but you are under more pressure now. They are really ready to go to market, and you are really under pressure to almost have that conversation right there at that first meeting. Do you ever do that? Do you ever have that, let's say, a conversation around price, have a sit down with them at that first meeting?
If I get called in and they turn around because I haven't asked them the question in the initial phone call, so I'm not expecting it, which would have been the wrong thing to do. So you should normally know this. But if you actually get there, you're sitting in front of the seller, you've done your thing, you've had a chat to them, and they say, listen, we've got 2 other agencies that have come in. They've already given us an indication of what they think it's worth. We need to decide who we're going to go with today, because we need to put it on the market. And if their motivation is that high, then you can have the conversation with them. The way that I would address that, Corvus, is I'm quite straightforward with the clients. I'll say to them, listen, any fool can sell a house. You can sell this house yourself if you wanted to. The reason that you choose an agent that has not only their marketing but their strategies is because the strategies is what allows you to attract the highest price from the market. I can put your home on the market at any price and it will sell. If it's low enough and somebody comes through, it will sell. But that's not what you want. You want to get the highest price from the market, and therefore you need strategies. And I can go through those strategies with you. The bottom line is that if you're telling me that your price expectation is 3 million rand, we can see that it's on the high end of what this suburb typically sells for. We can put it on for 3 million rand. That's absolutely not a problem at all. You are the seller, so you set the list price. So we'll put it on at 3 million rand. But what I will do is I will come back to you every single week, and I'll give you feedback from the market. And it's very straightforward to see whether there's resistance to the price or not. So we'll put it on at 3 million rand. If I get 300 hits in the first week, showing that the marketing is working and buyers out there can see that it's available, and I'm not getting a single call, that tells us a story. Typically, there's resistance to the price because they see more value in a home down the road or around the corner. If I bring through 10 clients in the first week, and I get feedback from all of those clients when they come through the home, and all of them are saying there's better value down the road, the price should be closer to 2.7 million rand, I will give you that feedback as well. So we will only know whether you're going to achieve that price when we're in the market and when we the clients vote with their feet. So I can very happily take it on at 3 million, which is what you'd like to achieve. I will do everything I can to get that price for you, but I will give you honest feedback once a week so that you can then make an informed decision on how you want to move forward. And if there is resistance to the price in the first week, we'll know it.
Okay.
So the point is that you, for me, I never turn down a mandate if I think it's too high, if the seller's motivation is high enough. If they say, oh, no, well, we want to try 3 million rand, and you know it's worth 2.2 million, we want to try 3 million rand, but we don't really mind if we don't sell it now. If it only sells in 6 months' time, then we're also happy with that as well. Then, obviously, you don't want to be wasting your time on a property that's priced too high where the motivation is too low from the seller. So if the motivation is high, then you can take it at a higher price. As long as you give that weekly feedback from the market and the motivation is there from the seller, then you can obviously work with them to get their property to a realistic price so that it can sell.
Okay, great. We're going to come to that in a little bit more detail, those things that you just touched on, but I want to maybe just take one step back. So what you're saying is that if you are really pressurized, what I did hear from you again is that in your first conversation, in your initial conversation that you have with the homeowner, you establish whether they've spoken to other agents. So when you meet with them, you know whether the other agents have actually seen the property and met with them. Cool. But in
that also tells you, Kurvis, that question also, and you can take it a step further, it also is important to try and find out if there are other agents involved, whether you're coming in behind them or whether you're coming in first, because that will change the way that you have that conversation with them as well.
Okay, right. So you do go in prepared. So in very few instances, you would on that first meeting talk price and maybe take a mandate if you really believe that there's not an opportunity to return to the client again for a second viewing. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah. If you're really that pressured, but if you know your scripts, you formed a rapport with the client, they like you and they think I could work with this person, then a lot of the time you can, I would say 90% of the time, you can push them into the second meeting, which is where you actually work with selling.
Okay.
So if you're really pressurized, you can go through it with them. But actually, for me, it's not something that I like to do. I like to go back to the second meeting with all my information in front of me, where I can actually sit down. I can show them the homes that they're competing with, so you can get their price more in line with where it should be. And then you can go through your strategies, your marketing, your service levels.
Exactly.
So 90% of the time you can make them understand that it would be in their best interest to wait for the second meeting, because that's a better chance for them to achieve what they're looking for from the market. But if you really have to do it, then obviously you've looked at the suburb before you went there. You've got an idea of what the prices should be. So then it's just a question of you making sure you've got your marketing material so that you can sell them on the benefits of them working with you and not one of the other agents.
Okay, excellent. So what you're saying is that it's very important to be comfortable with your scripts and your dialogue, what you say to that homeowner, and for you to have the confidence to have that conversation with the homeowner, for you to return for a second meeting. So I like that, because I think that a lot of our agents sometimes feel pressurized into that conversation where the homeowner says to them, tell me now what you think the property is worth, and tell me now what your fee is, what your commission is. So often we feel pressurized by the homeowner and we don't return a second time. We almost have that conversation with the homeowner right there in the first during the first meeting, and we are not as prepared as we should be. So thank you for that. And
because the conversation shouldn't be around price. Price is irrelevant. Any agent can give any price. I can list it at 3 million rand. Remax can list it at 3 million. Rawson's can list it at 3 million rand. But it's the strategies that you're going to employ that are going to allow you to get close to that 3 million rand or not. There's a script for everything, Kurvis. When somebody says, well, what's your commission? There's a script so that you don't have to talk about your commission. When somebody asks you about the price, there's a script so you don't have to talk about your price. When they say we're thinking of going with 2 agencies or 3 agencies or open, there's a script for that. So as long as you know your scripts, then you can have the answers for them. But I always like to, if I, for instance, know that that other agents have been in there, so I might be competing against them, not only for a sole mandate, but potentially an open or a joint mandate, then I would normally raise what could be an objection. I would raise it before the objection's raised, because I know my script. So I would talk along the lines of, you know, a lot of sellers think about going joint mandate or open mandate. This is the reason why a sole mandate is in the best interest of the seller, before they raise it, and now you're answering them.
Okay, so I'm thinking that we should have another session with you at some point on scripts, and I can pose a few questions at you, and you can inform us, you can educate us of these great scripts that you say to your homeowners. So let's move on to the next thing that I want to ask you. So you return now for your second meeting. What is the data that you reference? What are the analysis that you do? Won't you please tell us a little bit about all the different market stats and information that you consider in reaching fair market value on the property?
Yeah, look, it's quite simple. Basically, I always pull houses within 500 meters of their property. It obviously gives you a list like this. I remove all the properties that are too old, that are not relevant in the current market. It has to be the same market. So anything that is typically older than a year, although we know that the market's moving so fast, it should be every few months, but you need enough stats. So typically I kick out anything that is too old. I also then, after I've been through the home, I've got a fair idea of exactly where their value sits. So if I know it's a £2.5 million home, and the CMA pulls up homes of 1.8 million or 1.5 million, I get rid of those because they're not comparable. And anything that is higher as well, I get rid of as well. So what I want to go to them is, I want to go with them with the most recent sales, but ones that are very similar to their properties. Then I will pull the synopsises for those properties, but I don't pull it for every single one. If I've got 10 comparables, I won't pull 10 synopsises. I'll probably pull 3, maybe 4 synopsises. And I always try then to have, I will sit with their home, and then I'll sit with the synopsis, and then I'll ring, okay, this one's got a swimming pool, ours doesn't. This one's got a 4th bedroom, ours doesn't. This one has it's got an old kitchen that needs renovated, ours has been renovated. And then I'll put them in the order, so that when I sit in front of the client, I can say, right, here is what people expect to pay when they come into your suburb, between 2 and 3 million rand. Typically what we find is that the houses that are below 2.5 million rand still need to be renovated, or they're smaller, and the ones above have been renovated and they're larger. Now, here are some of the homes that are actually the most comparable to yours. And then I'll say, right, first one, this one here has got a kitchen that still needs to be renovated. Ours is renovated. Their yard is smaller, and they don't have a pool, and we do. So therefore, if we were comparing ourselves directly to this, we could say that your home wouldn't be worth less than this home. So you get to your bottom level. And then you then go and you pull, I then go to the top one, and I say, right, this house here is 45 squares larger. You can see the bathrooms have been renovated, ours haven't, and it's also got a granny cottage, and we don't have that. So if we were comparing ourselves to your property, would you agree with me that our value doesn't show as much value as this property? So that would be the top end of our scale. So now we've got from our lower to our higher range, and then I go to the properties that are the most comparable. I say, right, these two here, this one pretty much same size house, same size yard, it's got a swimming pool, it's got a renovated kitchen, etc., etc. And this one here has this, this, and this. These two are very similar to yours. So if your home came onto the market with these two, you'd find that actually this is probably where your property would sit, because it offers the same value of these ones that have sold. Then I will obviously show them what is happening in the market, who we're competing against, how many properties are on the market. Is there some properties that are on the market that offer the same accommodation that are less than what they're hoping to achieve, because you obviously want to get an indication from them of what they think their home is worth.
Mm.
And then that gives you a really good idea of where their property sits and what the range is. So I go through all of that with them, and I basically get their buy-in. So I don't say to them, this is what I think your property is worth, because it's not me that is saying what the property is worth, it's what the market thinks it's worth. So I will always ask them, I say, based on the information here that you've got in front of you, obviously we can see that your home's worth more than this one, but probably not as much as this one. And we've got very similar properties. Where do you think that leaves us in terms of your value? And then I like them to say, yes, well, we can see exactly what you're saying. You know, it does seem that our house is more around this 2.8 million rand mark, but we really did want to try and get like closer to 3 million. And then I say, no, well, that's absolutely fine. Look, you know, as I said to you before, this is our range. So what we want to do is achieve exactly what you want, which is the highest price from the market. And as we're not buying it, you know, we need to test the market with feet through the door. So we can definitely list it for the price that you want, but then we'll give you that feedback. But what you'll probably find is that our offers will come in around where you agree it should be. So yeah, it's more of a, you know, I like to sort of let the clients know that I'm not an agent servicing them. I'm a part of their team, and we're working together to achieve the same goals.
Okay, great. So if I can ask you just a few things on what you've said there, just if we can take a few steps back, the comparative properties that you present to them, properties that are currently on the market and properties that have sold. It's quite easy to demonstrate to a homeowner the properties that are currently on the market, because that information is available to everyone to see. But when we look at properties that have sold, and you want to look at very comparable examples, where do you get that information, Jace? I'm not talking about price. I'm not talking about price, obviously, in rand per square meter, but more the specifics of those properties. You know, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. Let's say a property sold 6 months ago, and I did not see that home. It was sold by a competitor. I never had the opportunity to view the property. Where do you get that information?
It is very difficult, Corvus. It really needs to be something that is driven by your franchise. So in our office, because all the agencies work together, everybody shares their stock. So when a new listing comes onto the market, that synopsis is emailed through to all the different agencies. We do it in our office as well. We keep it closed for a month, so we can try and sell it to our own buyer. And then if we're not having any luck, then we'll share it with Rawsons and Seif and Remax, etc. So we do have a repository in our office of all the synopsises of all the homes that come onto the market.
Okay.
So sometimes it's hit or miss, but typically we would normally have 2 or maybe 3 synopsises that we can use in our presentation. But it's very difficult for an individual agent to try and keep on top of that information all the time. It should be driven by the franchise. I've found it's just a lot easier. We've got so much admin on our plates already. Even if it's you don't have the scenario where people are working together in an area. If there was an admin person that was just online, you know, once a day for 20 minutes, saving from Property 24 the latest property to come onto the market, and that's kept in a central database, and then you've got that information. So when you pull your CMA and it says, oh, number 3 Tambutskloof, you can go in there, and if you've hopefully got it, you can write down what it sold for, but you've some information on the property. And that for me, without having that information, and I've been in the scenario where I haven't had the information, it's very difficult, because if you're not completely 100% positive of what you think the value is, then you lose your confidence, and that affects the other parts of your presentation. So I've been in that scenario, and I've had to get down to a point where I use only the properties that are on the market. So what I will do is I'll take the CMA and I'll say, here's the range of what people typically, you know, it sells for. We know yours has been renovated, so it should sit in the top half of that range. But I don't have anything directly to compare, so then I'll pull this one's on the market, this one's on the market, and this one's very similar to yours, and it's been sold for X amount. And then what I will do is I'll pull the stats from our office, and every office should have their stats of how many they sell, what is the average drop in your office from your list price to your sales price, what is the average drop in your market, in your area, with all the agencies. So if you know, like in our office, we know that that Somerset West typically will sell for around 7.4 to 7.8 less than the list price. Then I can say, well, this house is on the market for 3 million. It's similar to yours. We would probably expect it would sell for about 7 to 10% less than it's listed for. So that will give us an idea of where their home sat in the market if you directly compare them.
Great. Okay, so I like what you're saying, because we know that having a really good understanding of properties that come onto the market in your marketplace, and using that information and that data and that stats is critically important in having a proper conversation with your homeowner. So thanks for that, Jace. You've also already alluded, you want to say something?
No, just saying that those stats are, like, for me, that's the statistics that I get from my office are the most important tool that I have in my presentation when I am pitching for a mandate, because those stats allow you to set up all the different components of your presentation. So when you refer to, for instance, the fact that the average drop in Somerset West is 7.8% with all the other agencies, and then you show them that in your office, your average drop from list to sales price is 2.3%, that allows you to then go and explain, but why did we achieve a higher price for our sellers? And then you can start talking specifically around what we do to get the higher price for the seller. So those stats can be used in all different facets: how long it's on the market, average time on the market, what the average drop is, etc., etc. So those stats are, for me, the one thing that is my anchor that allows me to go off in different directions to overcome objections and to solidify for the seller as to why they need to be working with Harcourts and with Jason Hutton.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Love it. I love it. So as far as price goes, and you're sitting with your homeowner and you're talking about price, you've presented all the stats, you've showed the comparative market analysis, what has sold, what's currently on the market. You've already said to us that you ask of the homeowner to volunteer or tell you where they saw their property sitting in the market when you showed the stats, and you also need to get an understanding from them what they were hoping to sell the property for, right? So, but just tell us again, where do you actually give your opinion on what you think fair market value is?
I don't ever tell them this is what I think the property is worth. You can't do that, because what happens is if I sit there and I say, I think that your property, based on all the information, I think we can get you 3 million rand for your property. And then you put it on the market, and very quickly you realize that actually you're not going to achieve that. So then you need to go and do your VPC with them, your price counseling. And you sit with the client and you say, listen, we're not going to achieve this price. I think you need to bring your price down by 200,000. The first thing they're going to do is look at you and say, but you told us we could get 3 million rand.
Exactly.
So then you've got a trust problem. So I never tell them what I think they can sell the property for. That's why I do it in a consultative approach, where I'm a part of their team, we're working together to get them the highest price. And that's why right at the beginning, you have to make them understand that we're going to try to get the highest price from the market, but if there's resistance to the price, we will give them that feedback so they can make an informed decision. And I tell them, when we get to that point, you've got your three options. You can either wait for the market to meet your price, but in the current market, we're not seeing any growth. And if it's on too long, we're going to just damage the property. Or we can remove it from the market, because obviously if you're not going to achieve your price, then you need to decide whether you're even going to sell at this point in time. Or you're going to meet the market. And I'll give you those 3 options after we've got feedback from the market. And then you can make a decision on whether you're meeting the market, waiting the market to meet your price, or whether you can withdraw it. But we will do everything we can to get you the price from the market, but it's not me setting the value. It's not me telling you what it's going to sell for. It's the market, and we'll only know that when they vote with their feet. So if you go in front of them and you say, I think it's worth X, then you're just setting yourself up for misery and failure. And that's why agents hate going and having VPCs, because they feel that they're the ones to blame when you're
Got
not.
you. Got you. Okay, great. So that's very valuable. What I want to ask you is, if your homeowner, if your seller says to you, this is my expectation, and you know that it is quite a bit removed from fair market value, what your analysis shows, do you have the conversation around the dangers of overpricing? Do you explain to them that there's this, how does that conversation go around guiding your homeowner on the dangers of overpricing?
It used to be something that I would have a conversation over, but not anymore. So a lot of agents will say, well, if you want to listen to that, it's ridiculous, I'm not going to take it. And I would agree with them if the motivation of the seller is not high, because you don't want to waste your time for 3 or 4 months and then it doesn't sell, and then their motivation changes. It goes to the next agent who immediately changed the price to where it should be and it sells. I mean, how many times have we seen that happen? So I have the conversation, which is, you're the seller, so you can determine what you want the list price to be. That's absolutely fine. I'm working with you to achieve that. We have shown you all the stats that you actually are on the high end. I know you want to get that, but you are on the high end. All I'm going to do is I'm going to be extremely honest with you. I'm going to give you the feedback every single week, and I'm going to tell you, and we will know very, very soon whether you're going to achieve that or not. So don't not take it on if the seller's motivation is reasonably high. Rather take it on and then let the market show the client that what they want to achieve is not going to happen. And then you at least have still got the mandate, and you had time to build a rapport. They trust you more, and your relationship is stronger. So don't not take it if the motivation is there. But obviously, if the motivation is low and their expectation is too high, then my conversation would be along the lines of, the market is indicating that you're actually reaching too far. And obviously you are in no position right now where you need to sell. You're not motivated because you're moving for a job or divorce or disease or whatever. My recommendation would be to rather don't list at this point in time with anyone. Let's see what the market's doing towards the end of the year, when all this situation we're in now is hopefully behind us, and the market's starting to look a little bit better. We always know that we get more movement towards the end of the year because of people relocating to schools and work and that type of thing. So my recommendation would be, rather don't list it at this point in time, rather put it on towards the end of the year, and then we can have the conversation again about where your price would be. But just understand that if you put it on now and it is too high, and you don't get any movement, then the longer it's in the market for, the more damage the property, and the longer it's in the market for, more likely chances you'll get less than you would have got if you put it on at the right price to start off with. And then I would walk away from it, but I'd leave the door open. If they decide to list with Rawson's, and Rawson's sit with it for 4 months and don't sell it because the price is wrong, then you keep your relationship going with that client. Give them a call once a month. How's it going? See, you haven't sold yet. Give them some update on what's happening in the market so they know that you're looking after them. And then when the mandates are coming up to expire, then make contact again and go and have another conversation. But don't take it on if it's too high and their motivation's low.
Okay, great. So if the motivation is high, and the price expectation is also quite far removed from what you see, what your analysis shows as fair market value, I've heard from you that you are willing to take the mandate if they are willing to listen to the market, and you will give them weekly feedback. and you are quite confident that they will listen to the market and that they will lower their price expectation. But in terms of market spend, on advertising spend, and especially, you know, the things that you guys do, professional photography, you have your Matterport on your sole mandates, you have your videos and all those things, and you also do occasional print advertising. Even on quite an overpriced property, do you still spend all of that on a sole mandate?
We do. We obviously, you know, because one of the questions that come up is commission. So we have commission packages that take us from 5% up to sort of 6.5%. So if I find that the motivation is reasonably good, but the price is way too high, but they say they're willing to listen to the market, then I would probably put them on a marketing package in terms of the commission percentage that is maybe not as high a spend initially, and then see whether they do listen to the market. And after week one, if they decide, yes, they're going to reduce their price and they understand now and they will listen to the market, then you can always change your ad spend and shift them to a different level. But if it's somebody that, you know, is not that motivated, the price is okay but not great, then I typically would stick them on a marketing package where I'm really not doing that much apart from my database, my on-the-ground stuff in terms of networking with other agents, show houses, that type of thing, and then online. But I won't go and put them in the paper. I won't put a Matterport on there because that's expensive. So I will adjust my risk based on the client's willingness to listen to the market and what the motivation is, because again, and this is one of the things that we're now looking at in our office, Corvus Young's working on it currently, but we're also looking at different packages where the seller, you know, will have seller paid advertising as well. So I think the market's changing so much. Obviously, the basics stay the same, but I think we're currently looking at how we adapt our office and our commission structure and our different marketing packages to meet the current demands of the market. So typically, before, to answer that question, we would spend the money if they signed a sole mandate because we have got a contractual obligation to do that. But if they, after a week or 2 weeks, decide they're not going to listen to the market, our mandate does have a clause that allows us to withdraw ourselves from the mandate if we want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Jace, last question. Apart from a homeowner that doesn't have a high level of motivation, would you, in what other circumstances would you walk away from a mandate? Would you actually refuse a mandate if the homeowner wants to manage you and you say no? You know, at this point, I'm not looking. I don't see myself representing in the marketplace. Just, you know, are there some times when you actually walk away from a mandate?
Yeah, look, I mean, we walk away from open mandates. Joint mandates is more something that we do now. We don't only work on sole mandates, so we do joint mandates as well. If their motivation is just not high at all, if their price is just ridiculous, it's the normal things for us. It's really, it comes down. I mean, every house is saleable, and we know that 99% of the time it's got to do with the price. So, you know, it really comes down to the motivation of the seller, and if they're not willing to listen, then you might as well move on to somebody that is going to listen, because we're not tour guides, we're estate agents. We only get paid when we make a sale. So rather not waste your time with a mandate that isn't going to sell. And it doesn't matter where the property is or whether it's got an ugly roof or asbestos or, you know, it doesn't matter, because price overcomes all objections to a house and all problems with a house. Right. So as long as the seller is willing to listen and work with you, then it's worth working on it. But if they're not, and they don't need to sell and there's no motivation and the price is too high, then rather focus your efforts on something that's going to give you a better return.
Okay, fantastic. Right, Jace, I think that covers pretty much what I wanted to ask you. Thank you so much for making yourself available and sharing your unbelievable experience and your years of gaining success and having such a good understanding of the type of conversations that you can have with your homeowners and giving us some of your insights. We are really appreciative of your time. Thank you very, very much, my friend. And we wish you and the Platinum team great success. Like you said, it's interesting times where we have to revisit our strategies and look at doing things in different ways. And we just wish you guys all of the very best.
Yeah, thank you very much, Cobus. Thanks for your time as well. And good luck to everybody from Harcourts throughout South Africa. It's great to see all the different training online, and it's good to hear stories from our colleagues in other parts of the country who are still making sales during this hard time. So that gives us all something to be motivated about. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, have a great day. Chat to you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Take care,
man.
Cobus.
Cheers, Jace.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.